Hello Harsh, how are you? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Vinita. How are you? So let the others also join. So today we'll focus upon SA 315 and 330 a bit to understand why these standards are very important from the examination point of view. Am I audible and visible to both of you? To all of you? Please let me know. Am I both audible and visible? Okay. So hello everyone. The sound is slow. Okay. Now is it fine? Please let me know. Is my sound clear now? Am I audible clearly? Okay. So we'll have a little bit discussion today on SA-315. But before that, I welcome you all to the Unacademy, everyone. So the biggest learning platform. Um, so I'm your educator for the paper number 3, Advanced Auditing and Professional Ethics. So this is CA Rohit Grover. So I'll be taking care of your advanced auditing and professional ethics. So I have already launched so many like classes on the YouTube as well as on the Unacademy app. So what you need to do is you need to download the Unacademy learning app. There you have to search the CA Rohit Grover, and there you will find my rapid revision batch for the November 20, May 21 and November 21 students. Those who want to subscribe, they may subscribe it. And while subscribing, the only thing what you need to do while subscribing, the only thing what you need to do is in the discount area, if you will put the discount called Grover 10, you will get the 10% discount in all the subscriptions, in all the related subscription. There you can buy the course for 2 months also, 6 months also, 12 months also, and 24 months also. So these are the various provisions which have been provided by the Unacademy platform. So today's discussion, we are going to have a discussion on SA 315, right? We'll have a discussion on SA 315, and along with that, I will take up your queries also relating to the paper number 3, Advanced Auditing and Professional Ethics. Whatever the type of queries you have, you can let me know, and I will be glad to make sure that your each and every query will be resolved. Okay. Good evening, Kiran. Good evening, Kiran. Hello. Hi, everyone. So I hope you all are super fine. And if I'm audible and visible, please let me know. And if there is any problem in the audio and if there is any problem in the video also, please let me know in the comment box. I'm constantly looking at the comment box so that I'll come to know whether I'm reaching to you guys perfectly or not. Okay. So please let me know in that case if I'm audible and visible clearly to all of you. Okay, everyone. So let us start with the SA 315. Along with that, we'll have a little bit hint of SA 330 also. And after that, I'll be taking up your queries relating to the CA final examinations. So if you have any kind of queries, okay. So everyone, let us start with the SA 315. So what is the name of the 315? The name of the 315 is identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement. Identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding of the entity, and its environment. So remember one thing, sir, in SA-450, when the auditor takes management representation for the uncorrected misstatement, then does it mean audit also consider it as immaterial? No, 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 it will not be immaterial. That is a different aspect of taking the management representation letter. So it will not be immaterial. So I'll get back to this query later on. So let us first focus on SA-315. Very important thing. Remember one thing, guys. SA-315 basically talks about, it talks about what? Audit risk. It talks about what? Audit risk. So first of all, we have to understand what do you mean by the term called risk, everyone? क्या होता है risk? What do you understand by risk, everyone? Risk is a probable chance of loss. If I'm not wrong, risk means a probable chance of loss which may happen, may not happen. Are you getting the point? So when we talk about the audit, there are so many factors which leads to the risk. In the audit, we generally carry out our audit on the basis of audit sampling, test checking. So there is a lot of risk because some of the frauds and errors will remain undetected. Are you getting the point? Audit is nothing but an based upon the persuasive evidences rather than what? Conclusive evidences. There also the risk factor is very high. So SA-315 actually revolves around one topic called what? Audit risk. So what do you mean by audit risk? Now see, sometimes what happens when the auditor sometimes fails to decide his pet in a proper manner. When sometimes the auditor fails to decide his pet. Sir, what do you mean by pet? PET stands for procedures, evidences, and techniques. Sometimes the auditor fails to decide his audit procedures in a proper manner. Sometimes the auditor fails to collect the audit evidences in a proper manner. And sometimes the auditor fails to adopt the audit techniques in a proper manner. Sometimes the auditor makes the poor judgment. Sometimes the auditor makes the improper judgment. In such cases, the level of audit risk goes higher. Are you getting the point or not? This is what do you mean by audit risk. So basically, what is the definition of the word called audit risk? Audit risk refers to the act of expressing an inappropriate opinion by the auditor on the financial statements as unmodified, whereas in actual, such financial statements were already materially misstated. If all of you agree with me in the relation to the definition of audit risk, please write the word CC if you all understood. Basically, what is audit risk? What do you mean by audit risk, everyone? Audit risk means what? It is an inappropriate opinion. It is an inappropriate opinion by an auditor. It is an inappropriate opinion by an auditor on financial statements as unmodified. It means when the auditor has given the unmodified opinion. What do you mean by unmodified opinion? Unmodified opinion means clean opinion on what? On financial statement, whereas in actual such financial statements were materially misstated. Such financial statements were materially misstated. This is what do you mean by misstated. This is what do you mean by audit risk, everyone. I hope all of you remember the definition of audit risk, which is given as per SA-315, and the definition of audit risk, which is given as per our internal control system check. Right or not? So this is what do you mean by audit risk, everyone. Now the question is, sir, why the audit risk comes in our audit? Why the audit risk comes in our audit? Basically, audit risk comes in our audit because of three different types of risk. In our audit, the audit risk comes because of three different types of risk. One is known as inherent risk, one is known as control risk, and one is known as detection risk. These are the three risks. When they merge with each other, when they put together, the burden of these three risks put together is known as what? Audit risk. I hope everyone is crystal clear with the definition of the word called audit risk. Please let me know. I hope all of you understood the definition of the word called audit risk. Right, everyone? Please let me know. Did you understand the definition of audit risk or not? The audit risk is an act of expressing an inappropriate opinion by the auditor on the financial statements and unmodified, whereas in actual, such financial statements were already materially misstated. So is the audit risk only related to the auditor's point of view? No. Audit risk is a mix of what? Audit risk is a mix of three risks: inherent risk, into control risk, into detection risk. These three risks makes the one risk called what? Audit risk. So that is what the name of the standard. So what this standard is going to teach you, what SA-315 is going to teach you. First of all, let me give you the importance of SA-315. Remember one thing, in your examination paper, if you are not seeing any question, coming on SA-315 or audit risk or risk of material misstatement, I think that such examination paper is not at all a quality examination paper. Remember one thing, in the examination paper, if you take up the history of all the examination papers also, you will automatically find that yes, the one question is must on audit risk. Now we are going to break first the meaning of this standard, and then we'll understand each and every aspect of this standard. So what this standard is saying, it is the auditor's responsibility to identify and assess the risk of material misstatements. Now the question is, what do you mean by material misstatements? Material misstatement means frauds and errors. What do you mean by material misstatements? It means frauds and errors. It means it is the auditor's responsibility to identify the risk of some frauds and errors and to assess the risk of some frauds and errors by what? By understanding the entity. By understanding the entity and by understanding the environment within which the entity is operating. So basically, to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, there are three things the auditor has to understand. First of all, he has to understand the entity, he has to understand the environment within which that entity operates, and he has to understand the internal control systems of the entity. What are the three things? Internal control systems of the entity itself, and the environment in which the entity operates. I hope everyone is crystal clear. Did you understand the point or not, everyone? Did you understand the point? This is what the basic meaning of SA-315. So what is SA-315 says that the auditor should identify and assess the risk of material misstatements by understanding the internal control systems of the entity, by understanding the entity itself, and by understanding the environment in which the entity operates. Everyone write yes if you all understood the concept which I am telling you. Right or not? Now, how we are going to assess the risk? How we are going to assess the risk? We are going to assess the risk by applying the audit procedures. We are going to assess the risk by applying the audit procedures. And in the audit procedures, the first audit procedures which we should know is about RAP. Sir, what do you mean by RAP? RAP stands for risk assessment procedures. What do you mean by RAP? Risk assessment procedures. Are you getting the point? These are those risk assessment procedures which the auditor should apply on the entity to understand the entity, to understand the environment of the entity, and to understand the internal control systems of the entity. So how you can understand the entity, how you can understand the environment of the entity, how you can understand the internal control system of the entity by applying the risk assessment procedures. Are you getting the point? And after applying the risk assessment procedures, you will be able to identify ROMM. What is ROMM? ROMM stands for frauds and errors, which may take place at the balance sheet level or at the assertion level. I hope everyone is clear. Yes. Are you getting the point? Now, that is what I'm coming to that point, Harshbang. First, let us understand what do you mean by risk. Then we'll understand how to reduce the risk to the lowest acceptable level. Now, the question may come in the examinations. Briefly explain the various risk assessment procedures which the auditor has to perform. What do you mean by risk assessment procedures which the auditor has to perform? Now, auditor has to perform various kinds of risk assessment procedures. He has to perform various kind of risk assessment procedures. Basically, from those various kind of risk assessment procedures, there are 4 assessment procedures what the auditor has to apply. What is the first? He should make the inquiries from the management relating to the risks which are present in the entity. First, make a direct inquiry from the management. From that inquiry from the management, he'll be able to identify and he'll be able to assess what kind of risks are present in the entity, what kind of risk of material misstatements are present in the entity. Second thing, he can carry out one technique called observation and inspection. He can carry out one technique called observation and inspection. Observe with the help of the audit technique called observation and inspection, he will again automatically come to know about the various type of risks which are present in the organization. Then he can apply the another procedure called analytical procedures. You all know, as per SA-520, what do you mean by analytical procedures? When there is a correlation between the various transactions which have taken place in the entity. When there's a correlation between the various transactions which have taken place in the entity, at that point of time, auditor should try his level best to first apply the analytical procedures. But if he is not getting the results via analytical procedures, then only he should go for testing of details. And what is the fourth risk assessment procedure? Fourth risk assessment procedure is inquiry of from others. So there are basically four risk assessment procedures which you may write in the examination. So if they may ask you, briefly explain the risk assessment procedures for the auditor to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement. First one you will write inquiries from the management. Second one you will write observation and inspection. Third one you will write inquiries from others. And fourth one you will write analytical procedures. Everyone write CC if you all understood. Everyone write CC if you all understood the concept today. Right, everyone? So these are the various risk assessment procedures. Now, what are the other things in the risk assessment procedures? Informations from the other engagements done for the entity. There may be a chance that some of your partners, you are the engagement partner for the current year. Maybe some of your other partners might have done other kind of engagements in the same entity. So you can talk to your partner and ask him the various types of risk which he got to know when he was doing so other engagements in the entity. That is called information from other engagements done for the entity. Next one is information from the client's acceptance or continuous process. Are you getting the point? Now, information from the client's acceptance or continuous process means what? Key, how you are going to, now, what are the terms and conditions which were put to you at the time of an acceptance? So that is what do you mean by information from the client's acceptance or continuous process. Then information from the previous engagements and other significant changes that have occurred. Now you are having an experience of doing the audit for a particular client for a number of years. So your past experience also will let you know what kind of risks which are present in the organization. And fourth one is information from the discussion among the engagement team. When you will discuss the various types of risk with your engagement team, you will get the so many types of other inputs relating to those risk of material misstatements by having a discussion with your engagement team. So these are the various methods, these are the various techniques, these are the various procedures which you have to apply, and these all 8 put together are known as risk assessment procedures. I hope everyone is crystal clear. I hope everyone is crystal clear. So this is what do you mean by risk assessment procedures, everyone. Clear, everyone? So in total, there are 4 risk assessment procedures. Along with that, these are the 4 additional risk assessment procedures. Clear, everyone? So that brings an end to the topic called what do you mean by risk assessment procedures. Now, I already told you to understand the risk of material misstatement level of the entity, you have to understand the 3 things. What are the 3 things? Internal control systems of the entity, about the entity, and the environment in which the entity operates. Now, how we can identify, how we can understand the entity and its environment? The first thing what we should know about the industry factors. What we should know about the industry factors. Sir, what do you mean by industry factors? What kind of market competition your client is facing from the competitors? What kind of market competition? Is the market competition is severe or is the market competition is less? You have to have the understanding of the various environments. If I'm not wrong, you have done one subject called strategic management at your intermediate level, where you know about the different types of environment, micro environment, macro environment. Are you getting the point? Political, PESEL, political, economical, legal, all these environments, and cosmic, customer, organization, supplier, market, intermediaries, consumer, all these kind of environments you do know. And among those environment, the first factor which you should have the knowledge is known as market competition. Am I correct? See, Harsh, that obviously you can have a discussion with your engagement team only if you have already done the various types of audits in the previous past relating to that entity. That is very obvious. So obviously, when you are doing the audit for the first time, then in that case, you can't have any kind of discussion. You can't have any kind of discussion with your organization. You can't have any kind of discussion with your engagement team. So if you have already done the audits in the previous past, then only you can have a discussion with your engagement team. I hope I made it clear to you. Hi Raghunandan, how are you? Long time, right? So we have to understand the environment. So how we can understand the environment? We have to understand the market competition of the entity. We have to understand whether the entity is into the cyclical kind of business activity or seasonal kind of business activity. Now we have to understand what is the product technology the entity is using. Are you getting what kind of technology the entity is using while doing the production? Is it using the outdated technology or is it using the updated technology? Then what is the energy consumption and what is the energy cost and supply? How much is your energy cost and how much is the supply of energy to the entity for the production activity? So these industry factors will give you the idea about the environment of the entity, the market competition, seasonal cyclical activities, and production technology, energy cost and supply. Then we have to understand type of industry may give the rise to the specific risk factors. In which kind of industry you are operating, that also may give you various types of specific risk. Now, what are the regulatory factors which are surrounding your entity? What kind of regulatory factors? What are your accounting policies of the entity? What are the accounting policies of the entity? The industry in which you are operating, what are the industry specific practices you have? What are the regulatory frameworks? Say, for example, you are a factory and there are 20 or more workers, then payment of bonus act is also applicable. Payment of gratuity act is also applicable. EPF is applicable. ESI is applicable. What are the government policies? Is your business affected with the government policies or not? What are the laws which are affecting your entity? Suppose you are a factory, then the air pollution act is also affecting you. Are you getting the point? Labor laws are also affecting you. And what is the taxation liability of the entity? What kind of taxation your entity is paying? And what are the environmental requirements? Are you getting the point? These are known as regulatory factors. So what are the three types of factors you have to understand? Industry factors, regulatory factors, and the other external factors. Now, what are the other external factors? What is the economic condition of the entity in which you are an auditor? What are the interest rates? What are the availability of the finance options to you? What is the inflation rate? What is the currency valuation? So basically you can call them as what? Economical factor. You can call them as what? Economical factors. You can call them as what? Legal factors. You can call them as what? Legal factors. Are you getting the point? So if you want to have the knowledge of, or if you want to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement relating to your client, you have to first understand their environment, you have to understand the entity, you have to understand and have a good picture of internal control system in your mind. Then only the auditor will be able to reduce the level of the risk to the lowest acceptable level. I hope everyone is CC now. Everyone is crystal clear. Please let me know if you are able to understand this particular topic. Clear, everyone? I'm good, Raghunandan. How are you? Clear, everyone? Now, entity, required understanding of entity and its environment through the internal control systems. Are you getting the point? How we can understand the entity and its environment through the internal control system? So yeah, okay, now it helps in understanding the structure of the entity, whether the business is simple or complex. It helps you in understanding the ownership and related parties. Sir, your sessions in the lockdown period are very helpful and worth implemented in our revision also. Thank you so much, Raghunandan. It means a lot. I hope I justified your expectations when you were revising. So what are the other factors you have to understand the entity? You have to understand their internal controls. You have to understand, have a good knowledge of their business operations. Then you know the cash flow statement. In the cash flow statement, what are the three types of activities do we know? What are the three types of activities do we know in the cash flow statement? Everyone please reply in the chat box. As per AS3 cash flow statement, what are the three types of activities do we know? One is known as operating activity, one is known as financing activities, one is known as investment activity. So in case you have the operating activities knowledge, investment activities knowledge, and financing activities knowledge of an entity, that will also gives you the impression, that will also help you in understanding the level of the audit risk which is prevailing in the entity. Understand the financial reporting responsibilities of the entity. Understand the financial reporting responsibilities of the entity. Understand, have a good understanding of the accounting policies of the entity. Have a good understanding of the accounting policies of the entity, and have a good knowledge of the business objectives and related risk of internal control system. Are you getting the point? Now there are so many questions relating to internal control system also, they may ask you in the examination. I hope, yeah. Yeah, so same, if you have the knowledge of all these activities, you will be able to understand the entity and its environment. So basically, you should have the knowledge of industrial factors, you should have the knowledge of statutory factors, you should have the knowledge of what? Other external factors. You should have the knowledge of entities, internal control system, business operations, investing activities, financing activities, financial reporting, accounting policies, and other related risk of internal control system. Now, sometimes they may ask you a question in relation to internal control system when it comes to 315. Are you getting the point? Now, what do you mean by internal control system? What do you mean by internal control system? Internal control system means those procedures and those management techniques which the management is going to apply in the organization to achieve its objectives. That is what you mean by internal control systems. Are you getting the point? Remember one thing, internal control systems are not only limited to financial aspects. Internal control systems are not only limited to financial aspects, they are limited to financial as well as what? Non-financial aspects. So it means, remember one thing, sometimes the auditor fails to understand the level of risk because most of the auditors concentrate only on the financial aspects, internal control systems of the entity. But remember one thing, sometimes you have to apply your professional judgment to have the knowledge beyond financial aspects also. Sometimes you will come to know about the risk from the non-financial matters, from the non-financial aspects rather than the financial aspects. I hope all of you will agree with me in that. Yes, so this is what we mean by internal control system. Now, what is the purpose of internal control system? Purpose of internal control system is there should be a reliable financial reporting, there should be effective and efficiency of operations, that entity should comply with the laws and regulations, proper safeguarding of assets, design, implementation and maintenance varies with size and complexity of the entity. Did you get the point or not? So what are the objectives of the internal control system? What are the objectives of the internal control system? The objectives of the internal control systems are reliable financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of what? Operations, compliance with the laws and regulations, safeguarding of assets, design, implementation, and maintenance varies on the basis of nature and size of the entity. This is what the purpose of what? Internal control system. Now, what are the limitations of internal control system, everyone? Can anybody tell me what are the limitations of internal control system? Faulty human judgment. Now, you all know that internal control system is made up of what? Human resource. Internal control system is run by what? Human resource. And human is a statue of error. Even though you are the highly intellectual or you are the highly intelligent person, but there are definitely some chances that in your life you will definitely do some errors. So these are known as inherent limitations of internal control system. I hope everyone agrees with me, those who are watching the video. I hope everyone agrees with me. Right? Yes, if you agree with me, the first inherent limitation. So what is the first inherent limitation? There is always a presence of faulty human judgment. There is always a presence of what? Faulty human judgment. Just give me a second. Clear, everyone? Yes. Now, what is the second inherent limitation of internal control system? Collusion among the employees and management. What do you mean by collusion? Leakages. Sometimes the employees will join the hands together and ultimately they will do some problem in the internal control system. Leakage of the secretive information. Leakage of the sensitive and accounting or financial information of the entity in the hands of competitors. Because human being is something which is easily tradable in the market. That is the reason there are chances of leakages also are there. Did you understand the concept or not? Next point. Management override the controls. Management manipulation is also biggest problem in the internal control system. Even though you want to do something genuinely, but sometimes the management will put what? Control on you. They will manipulate your work. Cost benefits. What do you mean by cost benefits? Internal control system is a very expensive affair. Remember one thing, not every entity can maintain the same internal control systems which the big entities can maintain. Are you getting the point? And judgments as to the nature and extent of risk assumed vis-a-vis what? Controls. So these are the various limitations of which system? Internal control system. Did you get the point or not? Now, remember one thing, there are some things you have to understand in the internal control system. What are the internal control systems you have to take care of when you're a smaller entity? Now, what happens in the smaller entity? Number of employees are also what? Smaller. In the smaller entity, number of employees are also what? Smaller. So, generally what happens in the smaller entities, the segregation of duty is not certain. One day one employee is doing the purchase work, another day one employee is doing the sales work. At that point of time, it is very difficult to fix the responsibility of the every employee. So these are the various things you will come to know, or these are the various challenges you will face when you're doing the audit of the smaller entity organizations. Clear, everyone? Sir, internal control may have limitations also because of some unavoidable risks despite management not compromising on the cost. So is it an external limitation? Yes, that will be the external limitation. Limitation may take any form. It may be internal, it may be external. Something which is beyond your control. Like say for example, technology. Technology is something which keeps on changing. Are you getting the point? And it is very difficult to afford sometimes the new technology. So if you are running your entity with the old technology only without updating it to the new technology, that is also one of the limitation of the internal control system, because internal control system is always required to be updated if you want to survive in the market. So that makes it an external limitation. I hope you understood the meaning of internal and external limitations of internal control, Harsh. Right, everyone? Right, everyone? Now, this is what do you mean by SA-315 is relating to this thing. Now, this is what control environment, internal control components, control environment elements, these all you have understood in the risk assessment chapter, planning, strategy, all that chapters, and risk assessment and internal control chapter. That is the same thing you have to understand over here. So, how the auditor identifies and assesses the risk of material misstatement? To identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, first of all, he should have the understanding of the entity, its environment. Then he should assess the identified risk. He should assess the identified risk. Then he should evaluate the impact of that risk on the financial statements. Then he should relate the identified risk to the possible misstatement at assertion levels. What kind of misstatements this particular risk can pose a threat to the organization. Consider the relevant controls and relate to them to the assertions. Consider likelihood of misstatements and magnitude. What do you mean by likelihood of the misstatement? What are the chances that the misstatement will definitely take place? That is what do you mean by likelihood of the misstatement. And what is the magnitude means what? To what extent? To what extent that particular risk can go? To what extent that particular risk can go, that also you have to identify. I hope you all understood. First of all, have an understanding of the entity, environment and its control. Then assess the identified risk. First of all, you identify the risk, then assess the identified risk, then evaluate their impact on the financial statement, then evaluate or correlate them with the other risks and what is the possibility of them carrying out a material misstatement. Then consider the relevant controls and relate them to the assertions. Consider the likelihood of those particular misstatements and also consider the magnitude of those particular risks which are there in the entity. So this is what the audit procedures relating to SA-315. So if they will ask you how the auditor should identify and assess the material misstatement, how you can identify? By having the understanding of the entity, its environment and controls. You have to assess the risk, see their impact on the financial statement, see what is the possible misstatement they can carry out, consider their relevant controls and relate them to the assertion. First of all, everyone, please tell me, what do you mean by management assertions? Everyone, please tell me, what do you mean by assertions? Please tell me, what do you mean by assertions? What do you understand by the term called assertions? Can anybody tell me, what do you mean by assertions? What do you understand by the term called assertions? Waiting for your reply, everyone. Let me know. What do you mean by the term called assertions? Management procedures to implement the internal control system. That is called assertions. No. Anybody? Representations made by the management in the financial statement. Yes. That is known as assertions. Can you give me some examples of assertions, everyone? Can you give me some examples of assertions, everyone? Please give me some examples of assertions, everyone. Correctness, completeness, accuracy, validity, existence, ownership, valuation, disclosures. occurrence, these all are known as what? Management assertions. Everyone, clear or not? Now, I already told you the definition of audit risk, everyone. So what do you mean by audit risk? Audit risk is a combination of three type of risk: inherent risk, into control risk, into detection risk. So remember one thing, inherent risk and control risk are the whose responsibility? Are the management's responsibility. They are whose responsibility? Management responsibility. Detection risk is whose responsibility? It is a responsibility of auditor. So it is a auditor's responsibility. So when the management responsibility has not been taken place perfectly, when the auditor was also made an inappropriate judgment, in such situation, when these two kind of irresponsible acts have taken place, then what takes a birth? Audit risk takes a birth. So remember one thing, audit risk is not only the responsibility of the auditor. Audit risk is a mix of two types of responsibilities: management responsibilities as well as what? Auditor's responsibility. Inherent risk and control risk are management responsibility. Detection risk is a auditor's responsibility. So I will ask you a very simple question, everyone. You have to give me the answer in the comment box. Sir, is physical verification management representation as by the money? I didn't get your question. I didn't get your question. First of all, let me complete. What do you mean by inherent risk and what do you mean by control risk? Suppose there is a bank. Now give me the answer, everyone. There is a bank, and in that bank, no camera is installed. There is one bank, and in that bank, no camera is installed. Now tell me, chances of frauds and errors in that particular bank are higher or lower? And if it is higher or lower, it is a which kind of risk the bank is posing to itself? Please let me know. There is a bank without any cameras. It is a which kind of risk in that bank? No, physical verification is not management representation. Everyone, please let me know. Listen to the question carefully and give me the answer. Sandeep Nagora, he's saying that it is a control risk. Okay. Higher inherent risk. It is a higher control risk. No, no, no. Everyone, Harsh is correct. It is an inherent risk. See, when there is a non-existence of internal control system, when there are no internal control systems, at that point of time, inherent risk takes place. Now listen to the example number 2. There is a bank with the 40 cameras. There is a bank with the 40 cameras, but out of that 40 cameras, only 4 are working. 36 are not working. Now tell me, it is a case of which risk, everyone? When there are no cameras, it was inherent risk. But now cameras are there. Out of 40 cameras, only 4 are working and 36 are not working. Now tell me, it is a example of which risk, everyone? Now you can call it as a control risk. So when there is an internal control system, but that internal control system is very poor, ineffective, inefficient, limited. Are you getting the point? Internal control system is there, but in an internal control system is very poor. In that case, it is known as which risk, everyone? Control risk. But when there is no internal control system, in that case, it is known as which risk, everyone? Inherent risk. And when the auditor is unable to make the correct judgment, when the auditor is unable to make the correct judgment relating to his procedures, relating to his audit procedures, audit evidence, and relating to his audit techniques, in that case, which risk come? In that case, detection risk comes. I hope everyone is CC. I hope everyone is CC now. Clear, everyone? So this is what do you mean by audit risk definition. The audit risk is a mix of three type of risk: inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk. So everyone, please tell me, inherent risk multiplied by control risk is known as what? Risk of material misstatement. Are you getting the point? Risk of material misstatement arises due to the presence of inherent risk as well as what? Control risk. So can I say that then audit risk is nothing but ROMM into detection risk? Everyone write yes if you all agree with me. Everyone write yes if you all agree with me. Yes, everyone. So this is what do you mean by audit risk, everyone, right? Now material weaknesses in the internal control system. Material weaknesses in the internal control system. What are the types of material weaknesses in the internal control system the auditor may identify? Point number one, risk of material misstatement identified the auditor but not controlled by the entity and control is inadequate. That means we are here talking about the which risk? We are here talking about the control risk. Auditor identified some risk of material misstatement but the entity fails to control it because the internal control systems are inadequate. It means this is a clear case of which risk? Control risk. Weaknesses in the entity's risk assessment procedures. Management's risk assessment procedures are weak. Management risk assessment procedures are weak. Again, it is a case of what? Control risk. Are you getting the point? Absence of entities risk assessment procedures where there should have been one, then it is a case of inherent risk, because they should have the risk assessment procedures, but the risk assessment procedures are completely absent. Then in that case, it is a case of what? It is a case of what? Inherent risk. No, 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 Harsh. It will come before DR only, because inherent risk and control. First, determining the risk, identifying the risk, assessing the risk is the management responsibility. That is why ROMM will come first. Into DR is known as audit risk. Did you understand? Yes, yes, yes. Vinita, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Harsh, please look at the comment of Vinita. You will automatically come to know that what Vinita is trying to tell. So remember one thing, detection risk is purely dependent upon inherent risk and control risk. That's the reason risk of material misstatement will come first. After that only detection risk will come. Clear? Now anybody can tell me what is the relationship between the inherent risk, control risk and detection risk? What is the relationship between inherent risk and control risk and detection risk? Anybody can tell me? What is the relationship between inherent risk and control risk and detection risk? Anybody can tell me? Is it a direct relationship or is it an inverse relationship? If it is a direct relationship, please let me know. And if it is an inverse relationship, please explain why it is inverse. Okay, Vinita, you are saying that there's an inverse relationship between the inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk. Can you explain how? Anybody can explain how there is an inverse relationship between inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk? Yeah, inherent risk and control risk, ROMM and DR inverse. Very nice. Higher the inherent risk, higher will be the control set by the management. Okay, let me ask you a very simple thing, guys. Suppose there is a management which is having the world's best, efficient, effective internal control systems. World's best, effective, and efficient internal control systems. Now tell me, what will happen? Best internal control systems are there by the entity. Now tell me, what will happen? When the best internal control systems are there, inherent risk and control risk are higher or lower? Inherent risk and control risk are higher or lower? Inherent risk and control risk will be lower. Are you getting the point? Inherent risk and control risk will be lower. But at that point of time, detection risk will be very higher. Why detection risk will be very higher? Why detection risk will be very higher? Anybody can tell me? Why there is an inverse relationship between inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk? Anybody can explain me in the examination? Oh, sorry, in the Because there is a chance that we may provide inappropriate opinion of controls are more effective, assuming they are effective. Very nice, very nice, very nice, Vinita. That's the reason. So this is the main reason why there is a inverse relationship between the inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk, everyone. I hope you all understood the concept. Yes, everyone. I hope you all understood the concept. Yes, everyone. Now, could be so these are the various aspects relating to SA-315 which you should have known. So what are the material weaknesses in the internal control systems can be there? Risk of material misstatement identified by the auditor but not controlled by the entity. Weaknesses in the risk assessment procedures of the entity. Absence of the risk assessment procedures of the entity could be in controls that prevent, detect and correct frauds and errors. Evaluate whether he has identified the material weaknesses or not. Weaknesses could be in design, implementation and maintain, and communicate on timely basis to the MGT and TCWG. Everyone, please tell me what are the standards which are talking about communication with the TCWG relating to deficiencies in internal control system. Anybody can tell me? Anybody can tell me? Anybody please let me know what are the standards which deals with the communication of deficiencies with the TCWG when it comes to internal controls? Anybody can let me know? Yes, SA-265. Very nice. SA-265. It talks about what? Communicating the weaknesses in the internal controls to the TCWG. You might have heard about the letter of weaknesses as well in your intermediate level. Sir, you told that management has implemented best controls, then still how IR will reduce? As the same suggests it is inherent, then how control can counter such IR? Sir, you told that management has implemented best controls, then still how IR will reduce? As the name suggests, it is inherent, then how control can counter? Nee, IR will not be, IR will be reduced. I talk, said it in from the point of view of internal controls. When there are no internal controls, then definitely IR will be higher. But when you already have planted the internal control system, definitely little bit chances of inherent risk will be lower. From that point of view, I have told you. Are you getting the point? Suppose in a bank, when there are no cameras, obviously you can't detect the frauds and errors. Definitely frauds and errors will take place. But when you planted the cameras, at least chances of frauds and errors will reduce to some extent. From that point of view, I told. Yes, everyone, 265 is the correct answer. So what is the documentation we have to do in relation to SA-315? Discussion with the engagement team and significant decisions reached. You have to document each and everything when you are identifying and assessing the material misstatement. Are you getting the point? Whatever the discussion you had with your engagement team and what are the significant decisions you have reached, each and everything should be documented by the auditor. Key elements of understanding of entity and its environment and internal controls. What are those factors which helped you in understanding the entity, environment and its internal control? That also you have to document. You have to document those identified and assess the risk of material misstatement in the financial statement as well as what? Assertion levels. Risks that require the special audit consideration, that also you have to document. So what are the four things we have learned so far? You have to document the total communication which you had with your engagement team and what are the decisions reached. You have to document the key elements which help you in understanding the entity, environment and its control. You have to document each and every identified and assess risk of material misstatement. You have to document those risks also which need the special attention of an auditor. You also have to document risks for which substantive procedure alone do not suffice. What do you mean by substantive procedure? Means examination in depth also is not sufficient. Those kind of risks where the examination in depth is also not sufficient, that also you have to document. And form and extent of your documentation means SA 230. We are talking about SA 230. What should be the form of your documentation? What should be the extent of your documentation? That depends upon the nature, size, and complexity of the entity. That depends upon the availability of information. That depends upon the audit methodology, and that depends upon the technology used in the audit. So this is a separate question, and this is a separate question. What to be documented? What to be documented? It is written here. What to be documented? It is written here. And factors which affects your documentation, it is written here. I hope both the points you all understood? Harsh, please reply to that particular thing. Kiran Jain has asked you something. Please reply to that thing, Harsh. Kiran Jain has asked something. Please reply to that. Okay, everyone. So this is what brings an end to your essay 315. This is what brings an end to your essay what? 315, everyone. I hope you all understood the essay 315. Now for the next 10-15 minutes, tomorrow's class and day after tomorrow's class, I'm going to keep it only for you people. Whatever the problems you have, whatever the difficulties you are facing in this subject, if you are facing the difficulty in taking the handling the pressure of the examination, if you are facing the difficulty in making a preparation strategy, if you are facing the difficulty in now to there is no preparation strategy because exams are very near, hardly 7-8 days are left for the examination. So what kind of fears you are facing right now, you can have a discussion with me for the next two sessions, that is tomorrow and day after tomorrow, again 5:30 to 7:30, and along with that you can have discussion with me relating to any kind of difficulty in preparing your audit subject or law subject or any kind of subject which you are having a problem with. You can discuss your general problems with me. We will be I will be very much obliged if I'll be helpful in resolving your problems. So this is what the today's topic which we have kept it for today's discussion, that is called discussion on essay 315. So as we have discussed the complete essay 315, I want you to have a general discussion with me relating to your exams and relating to your queries. Please let me know. I'm still available for the next 10 minutes. Please let me know what kind of difficulties you are facing or what kind of queries you have. What is the ABC strategy? So today's 10 minutes, tomorrow's full session, and day after tomorrow full session, I'm completely there with you. So whatever the kind of difficulties you are facing, whatever the kind of things you want to discuss with me, I'll help you out in understanding the same thing in a proper manner. Please let me know, everyone. And tomorrow we are meeting at 5:30 to 6:30 again for the ABC analysis of your paper number 3, Advanced Auditing and Professional Ethics, where I'll be telling you the presentation skills, which chapter should be A category, B category, C category, nothing to be left but ABC category. Presentation skills, what you should plan in the first 15 minutes, how you have to analyze the question paper, what questions you should attempt first, what you should attempt at the later stage. Yeah, I can understand, Vinita. Everyone, when I was at your stage, when I was also, at your stage, I also wanted to complete my CA very sooner. So that is everybody's dream. I hope there is no second thought about that. Everybody's dream is to complete their CA as soon as possible. So I do agree with you. The thing is, like, the only thing which the CA course needs is two skills: listening skills and patience. You need patience, a lot of patience. Sometimes you run out of your patience because things are surrounding you are not happening on your own way, they are not happening as per your way. Like nowadays you have seen that since corona thing has happened in the March, till from that time till now, we all student community, the whole student community is particularly disturbed. So whether exams will take place or not, we are unable to concentrate. Keep one thing in mind. Why are you concentrating on the other non-material things? These are completely immaterial things for you. You should only concentrate on your portion. Complete your coachings on time. Do revise it. Why you are thinking about so many announcements which the different peoples are coming up on the YouTube platform or other platform? Every day basis, the things are coming. You will automatically come to know within an hour or two once the things are going to come. So you should only concentrate on your study pattern. You should only concentrate on your sleep, on your health. Other irrelevant things, other immaterial things, you should always keep aside. Yes, yes, yes. Tomorrow I'll be giving you the. So this is my third attempt. In previous two attempts, my time was wasted due to coaching. This is the attempt I studied so hard from the past 7 months. That is very nice. Make the best use of it. Whatever the 7 months you have invested in, bringing down. You might have sacrificed so many things, I think, in the last 7 months. So make sure that those sacrifices should not go wasted. Make the maximum use of those maximum use of that hard work which you have invested in the last 7 months. So ensure that you are clearing. And remember one thing, stop calling it as attempt. Stop calling it as attempt. Call it as your exam. Attempt means you are just going to attempt it. Exam means you are going to write it. Are you getting the point? Attempt automatically gives you the feeling ki, okay, if not this time, then next time. I hope you all will agree with me. Yeah, everyone is having family financial problems, Vinita, but we should always be matured enough to understand how to tackle them. Everything will wipe out with these two alphabets. Yes, I can understand. You can't imagine the feeling when I became a chartered accountant. When I became a chartered accountant, I still remember 21st July 2013. 21st January, sorry, not July 2013. I was a November 2012 attempt final student. So at that point of time, your chest, grown up to the size, like intangibly on your forehead, it will be written as a chartered accountant, and you get a lot of confidence. I'm telling you now, I still remember, still my, goosebumps will come when I remember my that day, how I celebrated when I became a chartered accountant. And that moment is something for which we all are waiting for which we all were waiting for. Are you getting the point? And I can guarantee that those two letters CA before your name will definitely wipe out each and every kind of financial problem, each and every kind of family problems which you people are facing nowadays. I hope I'm little bit helpful in understanding you guys. Please let me know. So in case you have any kind of difficulty relating to the subject, in case you have any kind of query relating to the subject, feel free to ask me at any point of time. I'm still here for the next 5-10 minutes, so you can ask your queries relating to anything. What things you are facing right now in your life, what you want to do, why you are unable to do. Remember one thing. I got 5 exemptions in my CA final paper. I got 5 exemptions in my CA final when I wrote my exams. At that point of time, how I got the 5 exemptions, that is not important. How much investment I did in getting those 5 exemptions, that is more important. Remember one thing, everyone sees that you are a chartered accountant or something like that, but no one sees the hard work behind that. I personally have compromised so many of the festivals, so many my friends' birthday parties, so many family functions only to get those 2 letters. And you won't believe that intangible thing which gets embedded in your whole body, that you are a chartered accountant, that literally gives you 200% satisfaction. Then that moment when the result comes, we all are looking for that P only. We all are looking for that P only. P stands for pass. But to get that P, you need to have the 3 Ds in your life. How many Ds? 3 Ds in your life. Dedication you should have, discipline you should have, and direction you should have. If you have a dedication, if you have a discipline, if you have a direction, you will achieve the 4th D, that is called destination. Are you getting the point or not? Dedication, discipline, and direction. You should be dedicated enough to become a chartered accountant. You should be self-disciplined person. Ki, yes, I want to wake up early in the morning at 5 o'clock and I will definitely wake up. You should have a direction. Behave like a horse. Don't see here and there. Behave like a horse. You know your direction. So dedication, discipline, and direction will help you in achieving your last D. That is called what? Destination. And what is our destination? Chartered accountant. Are you getting the point or not? To be frank, this cancellation of attempts helped a lot for best preparation and proper conceptual clarity. Everything happens for a reason. Yes, you have very well said. You are the best, sir. In inter, I came to rapid revision of my inter audit. I got 62 in audit, sir. Thanks to you. Okay, okay. You came to my rapid revision batch and you got 62. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure teaching you. Yes, sir. If we have a case-based MCQ, then can we assume that in the subjective 70 marks, ICAI may ask the direct question instead of more case study? No, no, no. No such kind of assumptions. Never ever make any estimations when you are writing the examinations. Never make any forecast. Never make any kind of expectations. Don't expect that if the case-based studies are going to be given in the MCQ, they will not give you the case-based studies in the descriptive question. No, not at all. ICAI can give you everything, anything. And ICAI has a right to ask you any kind of thing in the examination. It is you who has to handle the pressure in the examination, not ICAI. ICAI has one motive. They want you to make ready They want you to make ready as a sword, that you are coming in the market and blowing it up. And to become that sword, you have to clear so many tests which are brought to you by the ICAI. So remember one thing, ICAI will grill you. ICAI will, put so much of pressure on you, mental pressure, physical pressure, but at the end of the day, you have to handle that. That is what the most important thing. So don't expect that case study based questions will not come in the descriptive answer. That is not the criteria. It will come. Assume that it will come in the MCQs also, descriptive also. So you should be ready for both the sides. I hope I justified your query, Harsh. Clear, everyone? So ICA is always going to give you the surprises. You should be ready for. See, if your conceptual clarity is good in each and every subject, let the ICA come up with any kind of query, any kind of question. You should be in a position to do it properly. Right, everyone? Right, everyone? So everyone, please let me know if anything is there. Otherwise, I should call up for today's session. And tomorrow, definitely, we are going to have a ABC analysis for relating to various other topics, all the things relating to strategy, how to plan, what to do in that 1.5 day when you are going to come after writing your examination. Then in that 1.5 day, what should be your planning strategy, what to start with, what gives you the confidence while starting the subject, all these things. So essay 450 in terms of general way of presentation. Essay 450 in terms of general way of presentation. So what's the difference between ROMM and significant risk? Um, significant risk is a broader term. When we talk about the significant risk, it talks about each and every type of risk. When we are talking about the ROMM, we are only talking about the two particular risks, that is called inherent risk and control risk. Clear? Chalo, I think I justified your expectations for today, everyone. So I'll come live again tomorrow at 5:30 to 6:30. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, we're dedicatedly going to have a discussion on examination, MCQs, preparation strategy, how to handle the mental pressure, what to do in that 1.5 day. The more and more queries you will ask me, the more and more I'll be in a position to interact with you people. I hope you understood my point. So do let your friends also know what kind of what are the queries they have. Do share with them tomorrow they can also come live on the YouTube, and do let them to please share this channel also, and do subscribe, like, and share the videos in case you think that we are doing the justice to your examination preparation. So thank you so much everyone for coming online and giving your valuable time during this exam time also. So thank you so much for lending your patient ears. I'll borrow it again in the next video. Till then, all the very best. Take care of your health. Bye, everyone.